I'm going to introduce you to an opening that is similar to the King's Indian defense. This defense requires, but also allows, for very tactical play. The good news is that Black has the opportunity to initiate a counterattack through skillful tactics. The difference between the King's Indian and the Peerts defense is that in the Peerts, the fianchetto of the dark square bishop is delayed. Which brings us to our next topic. The ideas behind the sequence of moves. In this defense, Black initially starts with a passive move, pawn to d6, which allows White to get the ideal pawn center with moves such as e4 and d4. And because of the freedom granted to White, the Pirc defense requires a very high degree of flexibility, adapting to White's style of play. And just like the King's Indian defense, when it comes to a counterattack in the center, the Pirc defense requires good timing. The initial pawn strikes our pawn launches to e5 and c5. Now, before going on, I want to introduce you to chess grandmaster Bruce. He's going to explain to you what makes the modern Peerts so effective for Black.
Well, sometimes you want to get your opponent out of his comfort zone. And if you're playing the Black side, you may want to try playing the Pirc defense, the modern Pirc. The modern Pirc is a mixture of the Caro-Kann and the Pirc defense.
The first initial response by Black is to play a move that counters e4.
Throughout my chess career, I have played over 100+ games using this defense, and it has brought me success.
In this defense, the bishop will be placed on g7, in conjunction with the pawn on d6. This is played to control e5. And because of Black's passive defense, White already controls 5 and 6 squares on the 5th rank. Here, Black plays the knight to d7. But there is something else to notice about this position. After bishop g7, Black controls half the amount of squares as White.
In Black's opening setup, notice how Black places a pawn on c6.
Just like in the Caro-Kann defense, this gives Black ideas of playing the pawn to d5. In the above position, black's pawn on d6 is undefended. White's bishop on e3 already threatens the queen on b6. If you were playing black, what would be your tactical response? Well, we are going to take a trip to the conference room. And we're going to watch a game on the big screen and see how black counterattack white's threats. And here the basic starting position is set. Black already has a pawn on d6. White's first responds. Pawn to e4. The battle has begun for both sides. And the fight for central squares is on the horizon. Pawn to c6. And although knight d7 blocks the bishop on c8, this happens to be black's most effective move here. d5. A move that is played in the Caro-Kann. After contesting white's light squares in the center, black plans to place the knight on f4, attacking more of white's light squares on the king's side. Queen to a5 check forces the knight back to c3. This is played in order to avoid losing material, and now knight f4. The tactics are not over yet. Pawn to b4, a tactical move. White tosses a pawn to the wind just to get a rook on b1 with tempo. And now pawn to e6. Both of white's knights on e2 and f3 guard the d4 pawn, keeping black's bishop on g7 obstructed. And as the game progresses, black finally develops the bishop to f5 with tempo on the queen. Queen c4 check, bishop e6. The dark square bishops have been traded off. And we can already define the minor piece endgame. Two knights versus black's bishop and knight. Let's look at another diagram position. It is an illustration of another plan for both sides. To be aggressive on the king's side. I'm going to thank all my viewers for watching. Thank all my visitors for coming to my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for my next video.